Three, two, one, and welcome to a new episode of the Electric Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintrob. How you doing, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, this episode of the Electric Podcast is brought to you by Electrify America, the largest public fast charging network in the US. We're going to have a little bit more to say about them later on the show, but thanks, Electrify America, for sponsoring this episode of the Electric Podcast. If you're a fan of the show, let us know by doing a quick like on the video right now. That helps a lot with the algorithm, and it's free to do, so go ahead it. And let's jump in right away because we have a lot of news to discuss this week. It was kind of a big week for Tesla in its next vehicle to come to market. Unless you can't, maybe the Tesla Semi might come to market a little bit sooner. We don't know. But let's say the next consumer vehicle from Tesla, the Cybertruck, maybe the most anticipated Tesla vehicle ever. If you look at the reservation backlog, at least, albeit a bit controversial due to this its design. But this week, Elon sort of released one of the first major update to the specs, and it comes after, of course, it wasn't last one. It was in November, October, I should say, October, when Tesla removed all the specs, or most of the specs, all the pricing, and all the configuration from the website. And we anticipated that some things that changed, and Tesla didn't want to mislead people anymore with that, so they removed that, and we are expecting an update, which hasn't come yet. But Elon sort of give us an idea of what's going to be updated, at least on the top end of the vehicle, which is going to be the first to be delivered. If you remember, used to be the top end was a tri-motor powertrain with over 500 miles of range, starting at roughly $70,000. Elon now said that instead it's going to be the top version is going to be a four-motor variant with independent, I'm quoting him here, independent ultra-fast response torque control of each wheel. So instead of having a tri-motor configuration, you can have a quad motor configuration. The CEO also added that they will have both front and rear steer. So again, I'm quoting him. So not just like a tank, but it can drive diagonally like a crab. That's actually something that Elon already confirmed before. So it's not that much new, but the quad powertrain is new. And it's interesting in the context of how the market for electric pickup trucks evolved in the last 2 years now. It's been 2 years now since Tesla unveiled the Cybertruck. So it kind of got passed over by some competition, which is unusual for Tesla in the EV field. Like Tesla is always the leader, always the first with new things, and then you see others follow. We've seen like Ford copy a lot of what Tesla is doing. We've seen Rivian copy a ton of what Tesla is doing, but in some aspects now you can say that some are ahead of Tesla on some things. And on the quad powertrains, that's the case for Rivian, who the R1T, the top version, has a quad powertrain, four motors, one for each wheels. The Hummer Heavy has the same thing, and those cars also have slight rear steering to add to the front steering to have this four-wheel steering system that enables things like crab and tank, like Elon mentioned both. And what's interesting here is if you go back to the marketing of both vehicles that I just mentioned, for the Rivian R1T, they do talk about tank steering. They've been teasing that for a while, that the car can basically do a 180. Yeah, it would be a 180, like just change direction on itself, basically.
They've been
Uh,
doing that since launch. Like that was
yeah,
part of the 2018 launch at the LA Auto Show.
yeah. I remember we ran into RJ Scaringe, the CEO, coming out of installing the boot before it launched, and it showed us on his phone. Was very proud of the very first video of that. I don't think they ever released that video. They did release a few other things later on, but that video alone, I think I already had placed my reservation because the day before was the actual unveiling of the prototype. But that still did for me too. Was very impressive. Of course, they can do the 180 only on like soft surfaces. I don't think, like, he even told us at the time. I don't know if it's still the case now that they have a production version, but he told us that the car could actually detect the surface on which it was on, and it wouldn't allow you to do that if it was like on asphalt, which would like destroy your tires basically. But if you're on dirt, they will let you like just spin like that, which is pretty cool. Um, then Then the Hummer has had the crab mode that they've been talking about a lot. So that's the it can move diagonally, and there's some value to that beyond just a quick turn radius. But we've saw it. We saw a prototype uh, of the Hummer EV do it in traffic, just moving from lane to lane with this crab mode thing was pretty impressive. So Elon is saying that the Cybertruck is going to be able to do both of those things and also have a quad motor. Now, he didn't update the actual output of those. If I assume it's going to be smaller motors on each wheels, but I mean they were already talking about that, like a 2 or 3 seconds 0 to 60 on this fairly large electric pickup truck. So I would assume something very similar, even if not better, with a 4 motor variant. Now, he didn't exactly update us on if the is it going to replace completely the tri-motor version, or is it going to be now just a single motor, dual motor, quad motor, which would be most likely the preferred combination here, especially if they want to achieve the lower price point of $40,000. That's probably going to be with a single motor, though of course single motor is going to be a bigger one. So I would expect, now that Elon says that we're gonna have an update on Tesla's website in the near future that's gonna have the new variants. Because also, if you remember, I don't know if you can see it on your Tesla account, but when you place a reservation, you told which model that you reserve. So now, if they change those models, like it's gonna affect things. I know I have a reservation for a dual motor and a reservation for a tri motor.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You got two.
yeah, I'm not gonna buy two, but I wanted to have one of each, just to be sure. And at that time, Tesla was saying that they were gonna produce both the dual motor and the tri motor at the same time, start delivery with, which I didn't believe, of course. But because I didn't believe it, I want to be sure if I want to get one early, like which one I get. And I don't necessarily need the tri motor, though. The way Tesla configured them, the tri motor not only get the highest performance in terms of acceleration and power, but also got the longest range, which I'm more for a pickup truck like that. I was more towards going for a longer range. If I have to get higher performance, like, so be it. But I think there's room for Tesla to do like a dual motor version that has long range, like a most efficient version, and
So
then maybe the quad motor.
the tweet that he was responding to was a one about getting rid of the single motor version and having only 2, 3, and 4 motor variants. And that account often has inside information because they obviously back channel a little bit. So I think maybe that's maybe it's going to have 2, 3, and 4. Although at launch 4, I'm sure 2 is quite easy, and if you can do 4 and then you can do 2, maybe somewhere down the line it makes sense to do 3 because you can the front of one and the back of the other. But I don't know.
The thing is, though, with 2, like, I'm pretty sure then Tesla is going to abandon again the idea of a $40,000 version, like they did with previous models in the
Can we
past.
just say there's not going to be a $40,000
I
Cybertruck?
I know, but it's starting to be like a bad pattern for Tesla really to do that. I'm sure with like the car, like you've been in it, it's extremely simple. Like it's like we're gonna get into some other things though in the next
Mhm.
piece of news, but for the most part, it's fairly simple. If you have like just, especially with the structural battery pack, then a single motor not as powerful, you save thousands of dollars with a single, like just with having a single motor. Um, then you can probably get the price down to a decent amount once they have large volume production and they nail the um, exoskeleton body of the Cybertruck. I think it's actually possible. Of course, a smaller 250 miles range,
I
and
mean,
some
keep in
people.
mind a Model 3 you can't get for 40,000 anymore.
Yeah. Also, I'm talking about once they achieve volume production of the Cybertruck. So we're talking probably like 3 years in the future now. So we're pretty far out. Like I think the market's going to change a lot by then. I mean, Tesla used to sell the Model 3 for $37,000. I think they're going to be able to go back to that in the future. And how far in the future, I don't know. But I think those supply chain issues that we're experiencing right now are temporary. Like the world has changed a lot in the last 2 years, and we're still adapting to it. And job situation is strange. There's a lot of things right now. The inflation is getting out of control. There's a lot of things right now that people need to figure out. But I'm an optimist. I think we will. Just on what timeline, though, I don't know for sure.
So a couple things about that.
Mm.
It was kind of strange that in one tweet he mentioned the marketing terms of both Rivian and I think the crab. What is it called?
Crab mode.
walk.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever it's called is like that's a marketing term that GM actually like trademarked. So
yeah, do they? Can they trademark like a crab walk? Is like it's
I don't know.
It's something like well known. Like it's like you walk like a crab. Like I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know if they did, but they definitely used it in their marketing,
Right.
just like Rivian used the tank mode
Right.
thing. So yeah, I get your point. Like it's one of the first time that we're seeing like Tesla just like being influenced by the rest of the industry, other than being the other way around. Other way around, we've seen hundreds of times at this point.
Right.
But this way, we've seen a little bit with the Taycan. We know that like the Porsche when they came out with the Taycan and they did the Nürburgring. We know that like the timing at least seemed like it jolted the bolts at Tesla a little bit, especially at Elon. Then the Lucid, when Lucid came out with the pricing of the Air, Tesla came out with a 69,420 pricing of the Model S at the time. Of course, we also know now that the timing of that was like Tesla was liquidating basically the Model S,
right,
leading up the production. So you don't know what he's just like poking fun at and what he's actually like worried about. This might be one was actually worried about a little bit because Tesla is behind on electric pickup truck race. But again, I'll always put an asterisk on that because Tesla is behind on being the first to market on it. But the real most important thing is being the first to volume production. And let's say I put that 100,000 units a year, and Tesla might still be first on that. Rivian's gonna have unless like a big miracle, they're gonna have a hard time, I think, getting to 100,000.
Yeah, but I don't think Rivian even expects to get like their numbers internally. They don't expect to get 100,000 like next year or the year after. I think they expect to hit 100,000 like 2025.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think Ford is more likely.
Ford is the same, yeah,
to hit volume production.
Well, I think the 100,000 is also 2025, no?
Yeah, I think they want to get more than that out.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure they could increase that over time, but we know that the volume production is difficult. I mean, those trucks. What's the Rivian battery pack? 130,
140,
140. Like it's a lot of batteries. Like just securing that alone, like it's 2 Model 3s, maybe more than 2 Model 3s per truck here. So. Oh, no, we didn't even get into that. So just before that, Elon also made other comments about the Cybertruck where he called it a tech bandwagon. He said that the Cybertruck is intentionally an insane technology bandwagon, and they're gonna try to cram as much technology as possible in there, which reminded me of the Model X program a little bit, which of course Tesla then regretted later on, saying that it was a Fabergé egg of cars, and they just tried to do too much with it and slow down the production and the profitability, reaching profitability on that vehicle. But now they kind of figure it out. So I assume like maybe they think that it's gonna be different. Of course, there's big technology improvement coming with a Cybertruck about the manufacturing of it itself. Well, the structural battery pack, I guess the Model Y is more the bandwagon for that. But the exoskeleton is something that's completely new. That's going to be hard to do, and achieving that is going to be a big technology improvement. But what's more interesting here is that he made the comment relative to the yoke steering wheel, confirming that the Cybertruck is going to have the yoke steering wheel, which we kind of knew because it was on the prototype. But like a prototype is still a prototype. But then since then Tesla introduced the yoke steering wheel in the Model S and X. So we're like, all right, so if it's in an S and X and And Elon didn't seem to budge at all with people's complaints. And I mean, to be fair, the main complaint from people was like, just have it as an option. Like, give me
Option. Yeah.
give me the option of having a round steering wheel, which is not a big ask. Like, I know Tesla is one of the automakers that's most stingy on options. Like, they don't give you a lot of options, but still, that's a big one. And of course, like, there's two sets of complaint with the Rogue steering wheel. Like, it's two completely different sets. Like, Tesla did two big changes to the steering wheel with the yoke. The shape itself is one, and I think the shape itself is actually one of the least complained about. Like, they, because it's not too bad for most of the driving. It's just bad at very slow speed because you have to turn it a lot, and they didn't change the turn radius. And it's bad if you have like if you're sliding, for example, and then you have a lot of sway in your steering wheel. That can be harder to regain control. So that's the scariest one to me. But I think the most complaints came from the lack of stock on the steering wheel. Like, Tesla remove all the stock, replace everything by force touch buttons, and the AI to autonomously do everything that. So Tesla's goal is to have no input, basically. Like, the car does everything for you, everything that turn signals and everything like that. But as we discussed with the full self-driving, sometimes the car doesn't even do turn signals for the most simple turn. So that's, you would think that would be one of the easiest thing to program. Like, you're doing a turn, put your damn signal on, but it doesn't do it sometimes. But yeah, so now he says it's coming to the Cybertruck, but at the same time, he talked about progressive steering. And last time he talked about it, he said it was a few years out. We know Tesla has been working on a steer-by-wire system with progressive steering, and now Elon says it's coming, but it's going to be a technology bandwagon. So it might be Tesla's first vehicle with steer-by-wire, which would then come with a progressive steering curve, which would fix one of the two issues of the yoke steering wheel, meaning that as the speed slows down, you wouldn't have to turn the wheel as much in order to complete a turn, which would be extremely helpful. And to be fair too, I think knowing Tesla and how they improve over time in terms of all the AI technology, I would assume that some of the inputs that are being that are replacing the stocks would have also improved by then. So I think Tesla could really completely fix the yoke steering wheel. I think it's also the people's main complaint, and I don't know if you want to jump in on that, Seth, but it's the pros and the cons. Like, the pros are very minimal. Like, it looks better, but that's purely a question of perspective. I do agree that it looks better, I think, but some people don't, and I cannot argue with that. And it improves your vision of the center display, which it does, but like, by how much? Like, how often have you complained right now in your, well, I mean, you don't have a Model S right now, but you used to, like, you had a Model S with a full steering wheel with the same instrument cluster or similar one. Like, how often would you be like moving like that to try to see the instrument cluster? It's pretty rare.
I mean, if that's a genuine concern, they should do what is that called when you put the thing on the window?
Heads up display.
Heads up display. They should totally, like, if that's if that's the concern, put a heads up display. I think they should put up a heads up display regardless of anything. Because what's great about a heads up display, I was just recently driving a Porsche around, and it had the heads up display, and man, it just makes things so easy. You don't have to look down if you don't want to. And when I did look down, I was going like 120 miles per hour on the freeway. So
Yeah.
um,
For people who haven't experienced one of the latest heads-up displays, and like right now you're talking about Porsche, but they have made their way down market. I mean, they have made their way all the way down market, but they're not that good in all the way down market. But now in mid pricing range, there's some very great heads-up displays that, like, it's hard to complain about. I'm very surprised that Tesla completely went, like, left that behind. I know
yeah.
why. I know because they're so focused on full self driving, and their idea is like, you won't need one with full self driving, but not everyone is as hype about that as they are.
Right. For good reason as well. But the other thing is, like, this is again kind of part of the experience driving the Porsche. Like, one of the great things about driving a really nice car is that it's really fun to drive, and it feels like Tesla's got two different priorities. Like either make a fun car to drive, like a good, exciting car to drive, or make something that's really good for the future, which nobody wants to drive. Which I don't necessarily agree with. Porsche certainly doesn't agree with that. Like their future is like everybody gets to drive really cool cars, and like maybe somewhere on the freeway you hit the cruise control so you can eat a sandwich or something, but it's not like part of their their heritage. Whereas Tesla's got probably two fighting camps, and like, hey, let's make a really cool car to drive, but also who cares about driving a car because these are all going to be robots soon. So they're kind of like fighting those two battles, and it doesn't really make sense at this point to have it doesn't seem like autonomy is coming nearly as quick as everybody thought it was going to come. So
Certainly
if you're
not the robo taxi future thing. That
right, the robo taxi future is, it's like if you're buying a car now, you expect to drive it 3 to 5 years. I feel like in 3 to 5 years, on the tail end of that, it's possible that there's going to be robo taxi type of stuff. But for the next couple of years, you're going to be driving the car, like for sure. So,
well, Tesla kind of melted the idea of like what's going to be full self driving now, especially with the term itself. But Elon, when's the last time Elon mentioned the word robo taxi? It's been a while, so like there's we don't know exactly what's gonna come of it now anymore. Like there's with the beta program, the way it's like being rolled out to people. I'm really curious to see. We're gonna need, and I think we're gonna have more details on that with the next earnings report. But when is Tesla gonna recognize revenue from the full self driving, and how much revenue per package sold? Like what's the percentage of like someone that today buys it pays $10,000, how much of that Tesla recognized as revenue and how much is deferred? Because that shows you in Tesla's highs how much of that they have delivered. It cannot be 100% because it's not full self-driving. But now if you look at the list of what Tesla is like delivering upon the full self-driving package, with the city driving stuff being basically the last thing on it, like they could make the argument that, oh, we have delivered everything now that you have city driving with the way that we consider it safety driving, but you're still responsible. Like it's gonna be a mess. Like this whole thing's gonna be a mess by the time it unfolds. I'm very curious to see how it's gonna happen. All right, the other big thing. Something to add?
I was just going to mention, Dan in the comments says, if Tesla were going to solve FSD, would anyone buy a Roadster without a steering wheel? Like, what's the point of a Roadster?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, especially that can be like also like a track car. Like there's this idyllic like full self-driving future. Like if the true full self-driving idealists see a future like everyone is driving with self-driving, unless you go on a track, like basically like we use horses today. So I mean, a car like the Roadster, you'd still need to have a steering wheel on it, and for the few times you want to bring it to the track. All right, Tesla unveiled a new vehicle this week, sort of. The Cyberquad for kids. I don't know what to think much of this vehicle here. It's an expensive toy, $1,900.
That's a pretty good summation right there.
Yeah, it's not a Tesla vehicle either. I mean, Tesla worked on it. Like the design is obviously similar to the design of the Cyberquad that was unveiled on with the Cybertruck, but it's a Radio Flyer toy. Like it's going to be built by Radio Flyer, so it's not. There's no like Tesla battery technology in there, or probably not even a Tesla motor or anything like that. But it is an impressive spec still for what it is for a toy. 10 miles per hour top speed, 15 miles of range. It's not bad for a toy. 8 years old and plus. Like, yeah, I had to be at least 8 years old. I don't know, like, what's the limit on it? Like, what's the weight limit? Did we post that?
I mean, wasn't Franz on it for a little bit there? 150 pounds.
Wasn't Franz on the prototype of the real one?
I feel like in the video he's on it. You might be able to see it when you scroll down. He was on the video with his helmet off and like toward the middle. His kids are playing with it, and then he rides by with his kid in his lap without a helmet on, and it seemed like he was on the little one, and then cut to a later scene, and it seems like he's on the big one. I mean, him and his kid are over 150 pounds combined, I'm sure, but that's not a big deal.
Mm.
It just they kind of slipped in the full size one there. See, like this right here.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the small one. Yeah,
Yeah.
the small one. Yeah, you're right, the small one.
And that one goes 10 miles per hour. And then he's got his helmet on and he's on the real
Yeah,
one.
that's definitely the big one here. Like you can see, like even if it's behind all the others, it looks much bigger.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big one.
The
I mean,
old-
Franz is not a big guy, but I mean, yeah, probably over 150 pounds.
yeah, he's pretty tall. He's like 6'2" or something.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's an example of Tesla maybe like just taking a bit advantage of its rich user base. So I mean, I say rich, but at the same time, rich people generally they don't buy that things like that. Sometimes, like that's how they become rich. They don't spend $1,900 on a toy.
Also,
But,
they're probably buying like $3,500 full size quads or whatever.
yeah. But at the same time, it's a good toy to get people into electrification. I mean, like some kids are like really into ATVs. I know I have some cousins, and when I was a kid in Abitibi, which is like a country region of Quebec, like all the kids, they were all into ATVs. That's the thing. But they all into gas ATVs. You tell them electric, you tell them it doesn't smell, you tell them it doesn't vibrate, and it doesn't make a ton of sound, and they're like, I don't want that. I want the thing that smells and make crazy sounds. So to get the kids early on that stuff, that could help with electrification. But I think those kids already get it.
Yeah, and also 10 mile per hour top speeds probably
Yeah.
not too exciting for a lot of kids.
Yeah, I mean the difference with the actual Cyber Quad when it launches, that thing's going to be 100 miles per hour. At least we've seen it possible with the powertrain that they used for the prototype, which was a zero powertrain. So that's the other thing, dude. Like that thing is shipping in 2 weeks. Again, it's Radio Flyer making it, so it's not Tesla. But we haven't heard much about the Cyber Quad since it was unveiled 2 years ago, and Tesla unveiled it with a prototype that had like a Yamaha body that they converted with a zero motorcycle motor on it. So like Tesla needs to build its own motor for this, a smaller one, or maybe they're gonna make a deal with. Well, actually, I would like them to make a deal with someone like Zero, like that would boost the company, that will help them. And but
More likely they'll just take like a base Model 3 motor. No, that'd
no,
be
way
crazy.
too big, way too big.
Crazy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
they need something much smaller.
Is it weird? So we got the Cyber Quad and the whistle, Cyber Whistle, both right now, and obviously it's the holidays for everybody's shopping. But is it weird because this was also when Tesla was originally supposed to launch the Cybertruck? Do you think like they had these things in the supply chain, and they were like, all right, these need to be ready for
Mhm.
you know, Christmas 2021, and then of course they pushed back the Cybertruck. But these things, you know, it's just a piece of metal. Like it's not hard to make.
Yeah, I don't know, Seth. I don't know how involved they are with those things, but I think it's weird.
A lot of
I,
cyber coming this week.
yeah, I mean, this like Elon was joking about this silly Apple clot. Okay, which is fair.
That is silly.
It's insanity that you would try to sell a $19 piece of clot. Makes no sense. So make fun of it all you want. You're right. Then you make this cyber whistle. So what's the idea here? Like you're being like it's kind of an inside joke. You're like like I want to show how Apple is dumb with their $19 piece of cloth. So I'm making a $50 piece of metal that makes some sounds. Of course, the markup on this is probably like 600% or something like that. So it makes it's probably similar to the Apple cloth. But what's the joke if you're actually selling it in volume to people? So your fans are actually buying it. Some are in on the joke and are just like wasting money. Some are not in on the joke, and you're basically like doing the same thing that Apple is doing, that you're laughing about. And some others are trying to profit from it and buying it and then reselling it on eBay for like a several 100% markup. So to people that are probably not in on the joke too. So like, I don't know what's the goal here really. Um, it's not money. Like Tesla doesn't like they're gonna make a few $1,000 out of this, maybe a few $10,000 at maximum. So I really don't know. Strange world set. Strange world. All right.
Oh,
On the better news front here, we discussed last week how the new Model Y performance out of China is equipped with a new AMD chip in it. And it gave the opportunity to some new owners in China now to do test side by side
进入智
test
能车
with
时代，
sorry about that, a side by side test with the two vehicles, with one with the old Intel chip and one with the new AMD chip in it. Oh, I thought that okay. I'm trying to get the side by side comparison here, but it shows massive improvement, like 2 to 3 times better. You see here loading. I think this is the what's it called? Youku.
yeah, it's the YouTube of China.
Yeah, Youku, the kind of a YouTube of China. Yeah, took 4 seconds for the new AMD Ryzen chip versus the Intel Atom taking still loading, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 seconds. So massive difference. Bleebly, something like that. Billy, which is also another like kind of YouTube type in China. Even better performance at like a 7 seconds, and I think it took like 20 something seconds, 24 seconds for the. And here you see navigation, like this, so something a little bit more useful because of course you're gonna be like stopped when you're watching those apps, like those video apps. But navigation, it's something like that the response time is actually very useful, and you see here like massive difference in terms of load time for the maps. Now the question really is what's happening with those chips? Like is Tesla only releasing that in the new performance version? Is it gonna go to other models, other cars? Is it gonna go to the ones being built in the US? We don't know. It's the same chip apparently in the new Model S and X. So right now it's really only in the top performance version of Tesla vehicles, well, excluding the Model Y performance made in Fremont. But because if you go in terms of pricing, Model S and X highest prices, then it's the Model Y performance. So it might be making its way down market. And I don't know. Would be fun though, because that is a massive improvement in performance. All right, this was an interesting one here. Tesla doesn't release a lot of information outside of like closed channel and Elon himself, well, more specifically Elon's Twitter. But Andrej Karpathy, the head of Tesla AI and Tesla Vision, has been releasing some interesting information every now and again on his Twitter page. Like it looks like Tesla is letting him share some things, especially when it's for recruiting purposes, which it sounds like it was the case here. He's unveiled a new auto labeling tool for Tesla, which could be a game changer to some degree. We know that Tesla has hired like thousands of people labeling videos coming from the fleet. We know Tesla, that's one of Tesla's biggest advantage. They have a ton of data coming from the fleet, millions of vehicles now on the road, sending them videos of real world driving scenarios that Tesla can use to train their neural net. But as we know, the only value of having a ton of data like that is if the data is nicely labeled so that the neural nets can understand it and use it to train itself, machine learning. But it's good to have thousands of people working to label those videos, but it's a limit. I don't know what kind of output that a single labeler can have, but if you need thousands of them, it's definitely there's a limitation there. And Tesla is getting like hundreds of thousands of video clips coming in every day from the fleet. So, or at least they can, depending on the like they can turn the faucet on and off however they want. So if you have a way to auto label those videos, then you can use a lot more data and improve faster. And that's been the part of the Dojo project. So the supercomputer that they're building is to handle a large quantity of those videos. And now Karpathy released this video here showing an example of auto labeling working at Tesla here. And it looks very impressive. You can see everything is marked with different colors. It looks like it's seeing all the cars around. It's seeing all the curves. It's seeing all the pedestrians around in live view. It's very impressive stuff, really. Like you don't see a lot of mistakes. If this is truly, you see a stop signs. If everything is really done automatically here, it's impressive stuff. So you see things like that is why I get hyped about full self driving at Tesla, because I don't know if any other company has as this as an auto labeler like that. And if this is like new for Tesla, they just like they can turn it on. And here he says that it was trained with 100,000 plus uh, data, a large clean diverse. When how did he phrase that? Video, the multicam video. So I think 100,000 plus video clips. I think he's referring here, but if you can feed that to your neural net, then you can improve a lot faster. And we know that the timing right now is getting Dojo ready. Earlier this year, when Tesla had the AI day, they were talking about having like a stack ready, but they don't have the full supercomputer. That should be coming like anytime soon, really. So if they can get that ready and they have the auto labeler tool, then it's the rate of improvement should increase fast. My only concern right now is like, does that help for non computer vision stuff, like for actual like decision making stuff? That's why I'm not so sure how it helps that much. If you have people that are more knowledgeable, like please enlightening me. But and from my own experience with full self driving, the vision stuff is already extremely impressive. I'm sure there's room for improvement, and that's going to help there. But in terms of the main issue that I've been seeing is the decision making process that is lacking in a lot of ways. So I don't know how much that can help, other than like creating like a perfect simulation, basically, and having it trained through that simulation with better computer vision system like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with somebody who's getting a Model Y here by the end of the year,
Hmm.
and one of the things that came up was that this removal of the lidar stuff or just radar in general. Tesla has sensors, but they went to full vision, and one of the things that Elon mentioned about like the decision to do that was that the data coming in wasn't as clean as the data from the vision, and
Hmm.
only having vision was better than having vision plus this radar data. And for a lot of people, including myself, like that doesn't make sense right away, like right off the bat. But as you drill down into it a little bit, it doesn't seem like Tesla is having problems gathering the data that it needs to make these decisions, for the AI to make the decisions. I think the problem is that the AI has too much input, too many
Hmm.
inputs, and they're trying to kind of like bring this AI out of like a baby state into like where it can actually make some decisions. And I feel like only having vision is a lot easier at this early stage, and then further down the road when we have the hardware and the software that can actually do stuff with this data,
Hmm.
then you can kind of put in other sensors like lidar and stuff like that, because obviously having more senses is better, unless your brain can't handle it all and it turns it into a mess. So I don't know if that's the reason these decisions are made, but I think maybe that's kind
It
of
probably is. It probably is, because you know how like this is the big one of the biggest difference between Tesla and everybody else that's developing full self driving technology. Tesla, Tesla is like, oh, the road is built for people with vision
right.
and neural nets in their head, so eyes and the brain. So let's build a system that works with that. Well, everybody else is like, yeah, but like let's use sensors that are superhuman that humans don't have, that will improve safety. But then again, like might be too much for an early system, or and it might be also like not, the road is not designed for it. So Tesla has good arguments there. um but yeah, you're right. I could see Tesla like just getting as far as they can with full self-driving as it is, working with full vision, and then yes, add a lidar, especially as they go down in price, a lidar sensor, and use that input in some way that can help. But at the same time, if they can achieve like 5, 6, 7, 10 times higher security with a vision system, like, do it. Please do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Like they want to do what they can do as fast as they can to get to like,
Mm,
twice as safe as humans. And they think they can achieve that with vision only, and they probably can. And then they can get there the fastest only using vision.
mm,
And then once you go there, then you keep on adding, more sensors and more, and then you can get to 10x and 100 times and whatever as
mm,
safe. But like to get to more safe than human as fast as possible, this may actually make sense. And I'm usually
mm,
the one arguing the other side where like, why wouldn't you have LiDAR?
mm.
Seems like, no
But
brainer.
the thing with being safer than humans though is it's not for everyone. Like it's safer than the average human is
Right.
easy to achieve because how many accidents are the humans responsible because they are falling asleep, because they're drunk, because they're not paying attention.
Right.
Like that, a self-driving system can eliminate all that right away. But then what happens is that, so the statistically speaking, it looks very good on stats, but then it can do like a dumb mistakes that cause an accident, and um, a driver that's maybe just a little bit more than average, but that prides himself as, oh, I don't drive when I'm tired, when I'm falling asleep. I don't drive drunk. I pay attention all the time, so I don't make a lot like, and I don't make a lot of mistake driving. So that's a higher risk for someone like that to go with a self-driving system. Like I would like to see like a charts of of drivers, and see like how many people are responsible, because I know people in my life that have like been driving for like 20 years, never had an accident, and I know some people in my life that have been driving for 20 years and had 10 accidents. So it changed the averages a lot. So it's easy to be a better driver than the person that had 10 accidents, but it's hard to be a better driver than the person that never had any accident.
Let's do a quick read.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
This episode of the Electric Podcast is brought to you by Electrify America. Electrify America now operates the largest coast-to-coast ultra-fast charging network with more than 650 charging stations, and it's growing. It currently has plans underway for around 800 total charging stations, with more than 3,500 chargers to be completed by December of this year. And it plans to have more than 1,800 ultra-fast charging stations and 10,000 individual chargers installed by the end of 2025. That's a lot of. That includes 50 kilowatt to 350 kilowatt chargers near highways, 500 kilowatt to 150 kilowatt chargers in metropolitan areas. The newly launched Electrify America mobile apps now offer contactless payment along with CarPlay and Android Auto integration. And you can save up to 25% on charging with the new Pass Plus subscription plans. If you're an EV driver and want to learn more about Electrify America and its growing network of charging stations, find out what they're up to at electrifyamerica.com. That's electrifyamerica.com, or hit up the link in the show notes. Thanks again to Electrify America for sponsoring this week's show.
Yes, they had a fun piece of news too this week. EA, they announced that they have now deployed power packs at 140 charging station in the US, 90 in California. So it sounds like they are probably ahead of Tesla themselves in deploying power packs at their supercharger station, which help them reduce the peak charge, the peak charge time down a little bit, and save some money and deliver more stable prices to their customers, which is cool.
Also, it helps like if there's a power outage, like you have a couple of
A couple,
a couple of kilowatt hours
yeah.
there.
A couple of charges, like normally, like one power pack is 200 kilowatt hours, so you
Right.
have like a few charges in there. If they have more than one, then
Better than nothing.
yeah, for sure.
Get those new solar canopies as well. Maybe they can
Yeah,
put
that
some,
would happen. Yeah,
put some
sure.
electricity back in the grid.
So Tesla this week officially announced the move of their headquarters to Texas, something that Elon Musk announced during the Tesla shareholders meeting earlier this year. But now it has been made official by Tesla starting December 1st. The headquarters are at 13101 Errol Green Road in Austin, Texas. So that's where it pings the if you enter the location, it pings it right here, like right outside of Gigafactory, Texas. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not gonna be in like now. This is an old satellite photo here. I can show you here. The guys here at Terra Factory updates on YouTube. They've been making some pretty great updates on like you can see the building now is quite big these days. It's been updated a lot, but the here if you go right there right now, like I actually pulled it up from that video, is just a bunch of trailers and like temporary offices for construction, so it's nothing. And now it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be like a separate building here for the Tesla headquarters. It could also be in the main building right there. With a new development like that, the addresses are always like screwed up, like they don't make that much sense. So we don't know just yet, and Tesla never confirmed nor Elon confirmed if it's going to be like a different building or the main building. But Tesla has like 2,000 acres all around there. They have this side too here. I think they have this too here.
I feel like
They
they're
have
going to change the name of the
the
road.
roads. Yeah, I think one
Harold
is already
Green.
changed. I think there's one like this one or one right there has already changed to like Tesla Road or something like that. But
Yeah, Harold Green doesn't have the same like
yeah,
Starship, or maybe you'll
this
name it after his son with the
thi-
just throw up a bunch of keyboard. Uh,
this is also right next to the cement the
oh yeah,
concrete plant that's actually Tesla bought the land from, or at least most of the land. There's a bunch of different pieces of land that they bought, but it's right next to it. So
I'm surprised it's not right on the Colorado River there.
yeah, well, it's a zigzagging river, the Colorado River, so it
Yep.
kind of goes like a big swing around, and there's a lot of like marshlands too here.
Right.
So getting very close to it is not ideal, I think. But I see Tesla filling it into the marshland a lot, so maybe they're gonna try to build closer to it at some point. I think this is gonna be like a giant complex for Tesla. Like there's gonna be the big gigafactory, but then they're gonna add a bunch of buildings around it in the future. So last weekend, Elon sent out an email to employees, kind of confirming that they don't have to go too hard this quarter. I mean, that's an oversimplification of what he said, but if you remember, last quarter we reported on a bunch of indication from Elon that he was saying like the last quarter is going to be the craziest delivery wave from Tesla, end of quarter delivery wave ever. So for the people who don't know, quick refresher that the way that Tesla sells vehicle to customers directly without going through third party franchise dealership, it owns the car all the way to uh, the customer taking delivery. So the transit time are extremely important for Tesla because it doesn't deliver like a bunch of cars at the same time to a dealership. They own the dealership. So the time the car is produced to the time that it's get delivered to the customer, Tesla has invested in making that car, so it's a liability for them until it gets delivered. Like it doesn't look good on their, well, it's not a liability, it's revenue that's going to be recognized. But so something in my headset for some reason, like a sound. It's weird. You don't hear it, right?
Mm-mm.
I think it's my headset only. Um, it's so Tesla reducing the transit time is extremely important for them, and having as little possible vehicle in inventory at the end of the quarter is also extremely important. So Tesla plans its all production in batches to get the deliveries in time to have this smaller amount of vehicles on inventory by the end of the quarter, which resulted in giant delivery wave at the end of the quarter because Tesla makes vehicles for exportation early in the quarter to have them on ship during the quarter. And then at the very end of the quarter, all those vehicles arrive at their destinations and they try to deliver them to customers. And then they keep all the production closer to the factory, like in the US, for example, with Fremont Factory, later in the quarter so that the transit times are shorter and they can get the vehicle delivered. Um, this has been going on for years at Tesla. It's been a problem because it affects the delivery experience for the customers at the end of the quarter. It also affects employees. Employees have like giant spike in workload at the end of the quarter. But Elon has been saying years back that they're gonna try to change that. Of course, they didn't. Pressure from the markets, from the quarterly result, and everything didn't happen. So when Elon said that last quarter, we were a bit skeptical about it. But Elon sent an email to employees this week telling them that actually, like, staying true to his word, that they don't have to go this hard at the end of the quarter. They want to focus on cost instead of volume. So he says we will still have quite a big wave of deliveries in the last few weeks of December. So it's still going to be like a delivery wave, as we don't have high volume production either in Europe or Texas, which means a lot of cars are on boats from China to Europe and on trucks or railed from California to the East Coast, arriving late in the quarter. But this is nonetheless the right time to start reducing the size of the wave in favor of a steadier and more efficient pace of deliveries. So still going to be a tough quarter and of a quarter push, but he's sending at least a signal to employees that you can focus more on the efficiency and cost rather than the pace of deliveries, the volume of deliveries. The end of the email here basically sums it up. We posted the whole email on the site if you want to check it out. But he said the right principle is to take the most efficient action as though we're not publicly traded and the notion of end of quarter didn't exist. So this is a big change in policy for Tesla, really. But I think it's going to take a while before we see like a big change into delivery waves. I think we're going to still see them in the near future. But yeah, I mean, he's right though. Gigafactory Texas, Gigafactory Berlin are going to be a game changer for that. At least when it comes to Model Y. So those two factories going to produce Model Y first, and now Model Y is probably most of Tesla's volume at this point. So it's going to make a big change. Tesla's not going to be shipping any or as much Model Y to Europe. From China and from US, that's going to unlock production capacity for closer market. Again, China and the US are a giant market for Tesla. So a steadier pace of delivery is going to be possible for Tesla there. Moving on, Nissan had unveiled a new electrification plan this week called Ambition 2030. And it's basically a $17 billion investment into over 5 years into electric vehicle, both into new electric vehicle programs and into the supply chain, all the way down to the batteries. They even said that they're investing in solid state batteries. But on the customer side, it's going to result in 15 new all electric models by 2030. And they unveiled this bunch of like very uninspired, like never gonna make it to market concept vehicle here that looks just
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking about that.
It
Like
looks like a design like school,
yeah.
like, like not even like a final project, kind of just like a, doodle or something.
Yeah. But they did a little damn like I mean I like there's a convertible which you don't see that much in the EV space right now, so maybe something there. Pickup truck, like what's the Nissan the Titan from Nissan, their pickup truck, a popular pickup
Uh,
truck. Like could indicate that they're gonna release one now, but they didn't talk about any of this like reaching to market, and that it was just almost like eye candy for the announcement. The announcement that was again 15 new electric vehicles, $17 billion invested. Uh, Battery production. They weren't exactly clear on battery production. It's going to be like their own battery production, which Nissan tried in the past, didn't work out. They ended up selling their battery division. So I don't know what's their plan here exactly, but they're talking about battery production of 52 gigawatt hour by 2026, 130 by 2030. So not that impressive, really, to be honest. By 2030, 130 gigawatt hour is not that much for that point, but. So it plans to reduce production emission by 40% by 2030, go carbon neutral by 2050. So that's in line with a lot of what the industry is talking about right now. But in terms of the actual vehicles to market and volume, it's not that exciting from Nissan here.
yeah, and whenever we talk about Nissan and electrification, I always think like, all right, what would have the state of Nissan been right now if they hadn't ousted Carlos Ghosn, or however you pronounce his name, Godin,
Ghost.
Ghosn. Anyway,
Yeah.
like we still don't know what happened to him. Like, he got shipped out of Japan in a suitcase or something and is now in Lebanon. But like, you have to wonder, like, they were ready to release the Aria. Like, I had test driven it like in 2020, like at CES 2020. Like, it was ready to go. And we're 2 years later and they're just now like taking orders for 2023. And basically we haven't seen anything else. Like they were pretty gung ho. They were one of the only companies doing electrification with the Leaf. That was his baby, Carlos's baby. So like, I have to feel like Nissan lost like almost a decade by getting rid of him, because once he was gone, there was chaos, and then they were like, you know what, let's just whatever's selling now, let's get behind that and try to get the
Mhm.
company profitable again. And they kind of just let everything else go. Like, I mean, so I was at the LA Auto Show, and imagine the PR people who have to sell the Nissan Leaf, but at the same
Mhm.
time they have the Aria there,
Mhm.
and the Leaf obviously is like a relic of the past. It's got CHAdeMO, like no other
Mhm.
car. Like their other car has CCS combo, because the reason it's going to CCS combo is because CHAdeMO is on the way out. But right now they're selling the Leaf with CHAdeMO, and it's just a really hard dance that they have to do. And there's not going to be any CHAdeMO in a few years around to charge this car, and they're selling it today. So it's a rough go for Nissan. I'm not envious of their position. It's unfortunate that the Carlos thing didn't work out well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that much from Carlos about like his ambition for electric vehicles. I know he was one of the early ones to believe that we can make an affordable electric car that's profitable, which it needs to be profitable. They're not in the business; they won't sell it. So he was one of the early guys to do that. So kudos for him. But I know that he was also big on like this merger with Renault, and like there was a lot of like it's so complicated that two giant automakers right now, like that Nissan and Renault like merged together. So he was a big proponent of that, and I think that so there's two main arguments. Like people say, oh, he got pushed out because Nissan, Japanese companies, like a lot of the Japanese automakers, they don't want to make electric cars. But there's also this part of like there was a lot of resentment from for Carlos to push for this merger with Renault. So maybe that's also part of it. I don't know.
Right.
Could
Yeah.
be.
I mean, the
Uh,
idea was like you're going to be able to have three different companies, Mitsubishi, Nissan, and Renault,
mm,
uh, all pushing these same platform cars. It makes sense on a couple levels, but obviously the head honchos or
mm,
the board at Nissan wasn't a big fan of that idea.
no. We have just two more pieces of news to discuss real quick, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. So if you guys have a comment or a question to ask, put them in the comment section right now. If you can put question in all cap beforehand, that would be easier for us to detect them and to get them on the screen so we can discuss. All right, Toyota, according to a report that came out yesterday from Reuters, they are partnering with BYD to build a $30,000 electric car in China using the BYD Blade battery cells that there's all the rave recently. Apparently, like there's been a lot of talk about the Blade battery cells, which I mean, it's a the format is not that incredible. Like it's like a prismatic, like a pouch, long pouch cell, like a Blade. So it's not that much different from like a pouch cell that we previously seen. But they have a latest made great improvement in LFP chemistry. So the cost is good, and the energy density is also now good enough to be in decent range for an electric car. We know that Tesla use now LFP in the standard range vehicles. So and apparently Tesla has been interested in the BYD Blade battery cells, but those reports have never been confirmed. But they've been coming out of China for a while. But according to four sources that talk to Reuters, for Toyota, it's a done deal. They partner with BYD. They're going to produce this. They call it a small sedan. They say it's a little bit bigger than the Corolla, but or at least in the inside, it's going to have more interior space. But we know that making an electric car generally allows you for having a bigger interior with a similar or even smaller exterior size. And it's going to be powered by those cells. It's going to be unveiled in April, and it's going to be in China by the end of next year, apparently. But it's going to be the second vehicle in the sort of BZ sub brand that Toyota is making, starting with the BZ4X that's going to come to the US next year, the electric SUV. Now, this car is we don't know the exact name, but it's going to be a BZ something as a sedan. No words if it's going to come out of China. Um, Hopefully it does, because Toyota needs global all electric vehicle programs, because it's starving on that front right now. Stellantis CEO had some interesting comments this week about electric vehicle. He was again at Reuters conference. I cannot open this article here. Yeah, Mr. Carlos Tavares. He's the new CEO of Stellantis after the merger. He became CEO of the group. Of course, Stellantis, if you don't know, is the merger between Fiat Chrysler and the PSA Group, Peugeot, and all those companies. He came from PSA Group, which, if you were to decide which group was more advanced in terms of electric vehicle, that would be the PSA Group, but not by a lot, to be honest. Because I mean, it's easy to be more advanced than the Fiat Chrysler Group in terms of electric vehicles. So, but it did seem like it was encouraging that the merger for the Stellantis merger, that the Fiat Chrysler brands would go more electric, and they did announce a plan earlier this year that $30 billion investment into the 3 new electric vehicle platform that would enable a bunch of new electric cars across all the different brands of the Stellantis group. But of course, that was just an announcement, and because of the past of Stellantis, or the brands under Stellantis when it comes to electric vehicle, we weren't that excited about it. And it looks like Tavares basically confirmed our suspicion here, because in comments at the conference this week, he basically complained that the markets, and not just the market, but the government and a bunch of different factors, is forcing the auto industry into this electric transition, and they don't take into account the higher cost of making electric cars. And okay, let me just read you his comments, so I'm not paraphrasing too much. Tavares said, "What has been decided is to impose on the automotive industry electrification that brings 50% additional cost against a conventional vehicle. There's no way we can transfer 50% of additional cost to the final customer, because most part of the middle class will not be able to pay." That's an interesting comment here, because he's sounding like a good guy. We don't want to put 50% higher prices on the poor middle class.
Oh yeah.
But the other framing of that comment is like, woo, how is it costing 50% more? Like, are you blind? Like, other automakers are producing them and they're not costing 50% more. Tesla in 2021 has been fully profitable making electric cars that you could argue are competitive in each of their segments for the car with the conventional engine. So they are not more expensive in their own segments. Now, I do agree that it's harder at the lower end of the market to make a car that's the same price as a internal combustion engine vehicle. However, it's not 50%. It's probably closer to 20%, I'd say, 20, 30 at most. But that's, again, before accounting for gas savings, which you're gonna, depending on your market and your electricity rates, you're gonna save a lot of money there. So no excuse on that front. And he did say that he basically said that it's interesting. Over the next 5 years, we have to digest 10% productivity a year in an industry which is used to delivering 2 to 3% productivity improvements. The future will tell us who is going to be able to digest this and who will fail. We're putting the industry on the limits. I think with those comments, you're telling us we will fail. You will fail. Like, that's
They
the
just
thing
don't know
here.
how they're going to do it.
Yes, if you don't know now, then it doesn't mean you won't know in the future, but it means that you are not ready for a transition that's already full swing. It's already happening now.
Yeah, they
If
should have been making these arguments 10 years ago.
yes, that mindset that he has right now is a 10-year ago mindset. You're right. So that's 10 years ago. I wouldn't blame, I was already all gonzo on electric cars, but I wouldn't blame anyone that's in the industry that's like, oh, how can we do that? Like, it's going to be no one said it's going to be easy, but and complaining at this point is too late. You're complaining about something that's already happening. Also, to be fair, you've been dealt a bad set of cards. Like, these are brand new CEO of Stellantis, which doesn't have that much EV technology yet. But I mean, what do you think? Maybe, like, I've never been that high on the Apple Car project. So whenever, like, they talk about, Apple should buy Lucid or something, I'm like, yeah, like, leave Lucid alone. Like, they can do their own thing. Like, Apple getting in bed with Stellantis would make a lot of sense, more sense to me. Like, that if Apple could buy that and just be, all right, let's convert everything you have to electric. Like, just go all your production capacity all around the world. Let's go electric and produce Apple cars with Apple vehicles or whatever. That's pie in the sky. Obviously, I don't think that's happening, but that would be the best case scenario for Stellantis.
It would be. I don't like. There's a lot of like uncertainty there, though. Like, I mean, like, it's basically their whole operation is like stranded assets. Like, it's just one big stranded asset. I mean, they have employees that can put together cars. That's good. They have like factories that might be good, might not be good. Like, maybe you can't build an electric car on a
No,
assembly.
you can. The Volkswagen proved it. The Zyco plant is now like a volume production EV plant. Like, it's doable.
It's
not
doable.
easy. It's not easy either.
It's probably easier to just start from scratch, is what I'm saying.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but
hiring these days, the hiring is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like, it's so difficult to find people that want to work these days. Like, or want to work, especially in those kind of like technical jobs.
Right.
Like, they already have a great workforce. It's gonna take a ton of money to retrain them to electric vehicles, for sure. It's gonna be, but it's gonna have to happen no matter what. And if they do it on their timeline right now, they're gonna be the ones who fail.
Right.
If an Apple would come in and like inject a bunch of cash, which they have, and be like, actually convert now, it would probably accelerate Apple's plan to achieve volume production. That's the thing. We don't know what Apple wants to do with it. If Apple wants to produce like low volume, like if Apple wants to produce the Mac Pro of the car industry, it's gonna be relatively low. How many a Mac Pro does Apple sells a year? Like, it's not that much, right?
Not that many.
Yeah,
compared to the iPhone.
Yeah, compared to the iPhone or the MacBook or even the MacBook Pro is probably much higher volume. Like, how much does it start? The Mac Pro, it's pretty, like $5,000.
No, it's not.
No,
for a Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
actual
desktop.
The desktop. Yeah, that's pretty pricey. But
yeah,
you're
it's
right.
super
They don't
expensive.
sell many of those.
They don't sell many of those, and maybe but it's been a part of the Apple lineup for decades.
Yep.
So maybe they want to do something similar in the industry, or with something they're gonna sell like tens of thousands of units, maybe hundreds of thousands of units. But if Apple wants to go big and be like a major automaker and own the transport experience for the customers, linked it to their iOS and their ecosystem and everything on large volume, they're gonna need to partner with a large scale automaker. So it depends on what they want to do, but I don't know what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird because you think of automakers as being like the biggest companies in the world, but like Apple is so much bigger than everybody, including. I mean, they're not a lot bigger than Tesla, but they're 2.5, 3 times the size of Tesla even. So they could like buy up a Stellantis probably pretty easy. I don't know what their market cap is right now, but I'm sure Apple has that kind of cash like on hand, or short-term investments. So you're right. I mean, they could certainly do that. I just don't know that it would be easier than the alternatives, which would be building your own or whatever. Because there's a lot of old cruft in those kind of things. All right, should I get to the comments?
Yeah, we're already on hour 10 in.
All right, question: how much is that extra motor going to cost reservation holders? That's from Spikes 43.
That's a good question. I would hope that it would be the same price as the tri-motor version right now, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Quad motor Hummer, I mean, sorry, quad motor Cybertruck is going to be over $100,000. I
You think
guarantee it.
so? Oh boy, I don't think I buy that.
I mean, it's the first one off the line. I mean, what does a Model S cost right now? It's hard for me to imagine.
The Plaid is super expensive, yeah, but
All right, moving down. We talked about this one, the Solve FSD Roadster
mm.
without a steering wheel. That'd be weird. Has Elon indicated when beta will actually be safe? It's tried to kill me several times. We've all been attempted murder by
Yeah.
FSD. So
I mean,
um,
if you read the warning that when you actually accept the full self-driving beta, Tesla is very clear. Like you can do the wrong thing at the worst time, so you have to be. So you have been warned. As he indicated, when it's going to be safe. I mean, 3 years ago it should have been safe according to him, but it's not. So I don't even know if it really it's worth talking even about his timeline at this point.
I'm going to Vermont, so this is
Mm.
important. Anecdotally, regular non-FSD autopilot on highway has been a lot worse in the past few weeks. It's getting pretty scary for me to use these days.
I
Uh,
mean, it's not anecdotally. Like we talked about it a week ago, 2 week ago. I posted my article about the phantom braking thing. That's like there's clearly been in the last few weeks an update that has changed a lot of autopilot for a lot of owners, where there's a lot of more of those instances and problems with autopilot. It's clear. I have
yeah,
the same issue. A lot of people have had the same issues.
yeah. The difference is I'm going to Vermont without my
Mm,
wife this time, so I'm going to actually be able to
mm.
use autopilot if I want to. So I'll have to be more careful.
Yeah.
10.4 tried to follow a dotted line into a wall a few weeks ago for me. Okay.
Mm.
Cybertruck will not be affordable as well if it will get to be made anytime soon. Doesn't seem to be a high priority due to the Model Y. That's a good point. Model Y they can't make fast enough.
Yeah, well, Tesla has always been clear about that. The Cybertruck, they won't shift the focus to Cybertruck until they achieve volume production of the Model Y at Gigafactory Texas. Because they have a ton of employees right now at Gigafactory Texas, or they're deploying the Model Y production capacity. Some of those employees will work on those production line for sure, but a lot of them after they're done with that, they need to deploy a new production line. That's what they do. So then they're gonna focus on the Cybertruck. So that's why that even like late 2022 is still an ambitious timeline for Tesla.
All right. Did any Tesla HQ staff have to relocate or else? I imagine some
Yeah.
people like especially in this.
Have to. What does that mean? Have to though. Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that raise their hands and are like, "Yep, yep."
Right.
No income taxes in Texas. Yep. California being weird right now these days in some aspects
Yeah,
and
the price of
politics.
living, like your house is going to
Yeah.
cost a tenth of what you're paying now.
And I mean, there's two school of thought on that too, but the COVID restrictions too are very widely between California and Texas. So if you're more pro liberties or pro be careful about the vaccine, like depending on which side you're on, the decision between California and Texas are pretty easy on that front too. So I'm sure and I mean, did I say no income tax in Texas too? Like there's a lot of people that probably like shifted right away. um
Also,
but
tax reasons.
but I'm pretty sure Tesla is not forcing anyone to move to Texas. Like, they already had a bunch of engineering team in Austin before even Gigafactory Austin. So,
Here's an interesting question. KC5 GTS says, any thoughts on why Toyota and Nissan did give up their lead in EVs? I'm always brought back to this Bloomberg New Energy Finance thing in San Francisco. We met
mm,
one of those companies, kind of a bean counter over there.
mm,
And we were talking to him and we were like, hey, why aren't you guys making more EVs, or why aren't you planning to make more EVs?
mm,
And he was just like, it he had no idea what was coming. Like he was just looking at
mm,
sales and he was looking at present
mm,
day things and looking for trends
mm.
there instead of
Yeah.
like where the world was going. And I have to believe that they just had the wrong people making the decisions at that point.
Yeah, that was kind of surreal experience for me too. Like you are at the what's it like the Four Season, like super fancy hotel, like all those people all in suits and everything. They're talking about the future of the industries, of the auto industry and all the electrification, everything. and we sit down with that guy, and seemed like a smart guy, like one of the, like you said, one of those two automakers, and he was production planning. That's what it like, or model planning. Like he was planning like the how to grow the EV, and completely the way he was talking was like, so we're looking at the trends right now, we're looking at what the customers are buying, we're looking at the regulation are a big factor is the regulation, everything, and we don't see EV being adopted at a more than 5% rate by 2025. And like it's, you listen to that and like, all right, I'll say
Yeah, like
goodbye to
yeah, selling my
yeah,
stock in your
yeah.
company. All right. Greg says, question: do you think the new EV tax credit will qualify cars based on the base MSRP or the including options? Reason for the question above is Rivian's with or without options tend to be right on the cusp of the cutoff for pickups
uh,
and SUVs.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I did. I mean, I would wait for the final version coming out of the Senate, but I don't remember reading anything in the version that came out of the House about the MSRP. I think the way that it's written right now, it would be interpreted as the price that's listed, like what you're paying, like at the end of the day on your bill. If it's more than that price, you won't get access to it. The way it's written right now,
Yeah. I mean, it's likely once it comes out, Rivian and other makers will do things to
Mm,
like get the price down.
maybe.
They could sell, I mean, they could do what Tesla did in Canada and, sell a car with a reduced range and
But like that in Canada, to use the example of Canada, if it's like that where you have an MSRP and the price with option, there's also a limit on the price with option, and there's none of that in the current version of the bill. So that's why I would assume that it's the list price. So because in Canada it's 45,000
right.
MSRP, and it goes up to 55,000 or something like that.
All right. Justin Moore says with the concept of the EV9, it's a Hyundai or Kia,
Kia, yeah.
yeah, being released, do you think we'll finally see more full-size SUVs hit the market? That is a major gap right now for families with 3+ kids.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, really, we need to see more
Yeah,
third row vehicles.
yeah.
The Model Y is really the only thing. If you call that little back seat a
Mm.
third row,
Well, the
uh,
Model X, but the Model X was gonna had
right,
a year hiatus, and it didn't exist.
right,
Yeah, I mean it's going there. You have some like you have the Rivian too, the bigger one, but that's the higher market. Yeah, I'm curious to see the EV9. What's going to be the price point on that? That's going to be interesting.
and we saw a new what was it? An Audi, something this week that was really long. Oh, it was a Polestar 5 or
Mm,
whatever
mm.
preset. All right, green gold hybrid vehicles are still much cheaper than EVs. Hopefully, that'll change in the near future. What do you think about Tesla's battery efforts and where we are now regarding production and maybe the 4680 cells?
Yeah, it's starting to look like maybe the volume production is going to start in Texas before it starts in Berlin. So that's interesting, but it's not clear. Apparently, Tesla is still producing cells out of the Fremont pilot plant. It doesn't look like they have achieved the 10 gigawatt hour just yet. Apparently, they're still working on some aspect of the production lines. The silicone, the new silicone that they developed for it, the dry electrode process. There's a lot of things that needs to be ironed out completely smooth before they can reach the volume production at those other plants, because they're really learning a lot from that Fremont factory plant. But yeah, it sounds like next year there's going to be some Model Y vehicle produced with Tesla 4680 cells produced in house.
All right, and that's it for the comments.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. If you're listening right now, you're a true EV fan, a true electric fan, and we've been an hour, 20 minutes into it. So thanks a lot. Appreciate you if you're listening right now. If you are, you can leave us a review on your podcast app, 5-star review. That helps the show a lot more than you can imagine, and it's free to do. And if you did like the video, you can give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Algorithms love that. And we're gonna see you same time next week. Have a good one.